Hello, my name is Jill Phillips, and I tweet as Whose Shoes. And it was through Twitter, that like so many of you, that I met Adam and we became friends. We're hoping that lots of Adam's friends who can't be with us today in Leeds are going to tweet in and use the hashtag AdsTalk16. And obviously people in the room will tweet like mad, and let's bring all Adam's friends and all the people who knew him on Twitter and in real life into the room, and this fantastic ads place that we're in today. So I loved Adam's wit and his wisdom way beyond his years. We had many Twitter exchanges that included his trademark hashtag, altogether, he. So it's a huge honour today that Adam's parents and Adam's lovely parents, Zoe and Paul here, have invited me to chair this very special event, remembering Adam and everything that he stood for, which was so much. Paying tribute to this wonderful young man, as a person, as a poet, as a friend. He gave so much to all of us, and someone who really challenged healthcare leaders, but what I absolutely loved about him was always in a positive way. To be that challenging and that positive is a real gift. I hope Adam would have approved that we've got 2 poems today. So I think if we have the first poem now, and I understand that Sian's going to come forward, thank you Sian, and read a poem that's been written for Adam by Kirsty Scott. So welcome Sian.
So I'm going to read this on behalf of Kirsty, and I hope I do her justice. A poem for Adam. It's cold, I hear rain, the wind whistles round. I lay in my bed sleepily, not making a sound. It's got to be good to get me out of bed. It has to be something that just can't be said. What gives me such purpose like each day? What it is I value and what colours my grey. A heart full, forgiving, to ease your load, to be there when you need me, that was my ode. At times our national treasure is a real challenge to bear. At times it feels like the change we need will never get there. Some days I've woken and struggled to see how, not sure if I was making a difference to anyone now. Then I met a boy who turned into a young man. He was bright and so eager with the attitude, I can. Blessed with loving parents who told him he could. He inspired many people to change for the good. Now Adam, you caught my heart and you showed me the way to become a great leader like you one day. To be true to myself and lead with my heart, remembering the you is the best way to start. When I question and challenge and stand my ground, lead with values and the constitution to which I'm bound. When it's tough and emotional and the future's hard to see, I'll remind myself of your impact on me and just say, he. Thank you.
What an amazing poem, what an amazing young man. So Adam inspired people to hear the voice of himself and of young people, and on behalf of young people, understand what really, really matters to them. He taught health professionals to see children and young people as individuals with lives and aspirations, not just a set of complex needs. This is a very special day indeed, very poignant, exactly a year after Adam died, aged only 15, with so much to live for and so much more to offer, but also a day of celebration, celebrating Adam's amazing legacy, which lives on, and we feel it here in Leeds today and every day. The huge impact that he had during his life, which continues, and the wonderful opportunity that we have today to discuss how we're all going to work together to deliver the future that our young people so richly deserve. Hopefully this is the first of many annual talks, building Adam's legacy. And who better to deliver it than Kath Evans? Adam adored Kath Evans. Even Charlie, Adam's dog, adored Kath Evans. Kath is someone who understands why the voice of young people is so important, and works tirelessly every day to listen and to respond. A catalyst helping everyone move forward in really practical ways. So without more ado, it's a great honour to ask Kath Evans, experience of care lead for NHS England, to come and speak to us. Together, Kath, we can do, all of us, great things.
Smashing. It's really lovely to actually be here remembering Adam, because that's what today is all about with Zoe and Paul. Just making sure that you know that Adam is never forgotten. He's always in our hearts. He always inspires us and encourages us to keep on working together to do great things. Okay, so now then, does that sound good? Forgive me for a moment. What have I done? Natty, I broke it already. It didn't take me long, did it? Apologies for those on Periscope. Please do tweet away using the hashtag AdsTalk16. We'd love to know who's out there, so do get involved just while we're being rescued here. Apologies. Adam, you're meant to be looking after us. Brilliant. Fantastic. Perfect. Lovely. Thank you. Now, as we know, Adam has many, many friends on Twitter and beyond, importantly. And one of those friends is very much Kate Granger. And Kate has been an absolute inspiration in terms of making that human connection. Just taking a moment to actually say, hello, my name is. So I'm going to take a moment and say, hello, my name is Kath. I'm a children's nurse, first and foremost. I think that in some ways defines me. And I tweet prolifically, as many of you know. But I know that we've got lots of friends in the room, and I just wonder, just for a moment, can we make a connection? Can we actually go round and actually find out who's here? Zoe, do you want to go first?
Well, I'm Zoe and I'm Adam's mum.
Brilliant. And you've continued to tweet using Adam's account, which has been wonderful. Paul?
Yes, I'm Paul, Adam's dad.
Fabulous. Thank you. Dave, over to you.
Good afternoon, I'm Dave Ross. I work for NHS England and I'm a very recent convert, because of Adam, to Twitter. Tee-hee.
Excellent. Oh, well done, Dave. Paul?
Hi, my name's Paul Jebben. I work with Kath at NHS England as well.
Hello, I'm Sharon White. I am a school nurse. I've been converted from a technophobe to a Twitter addict. And lots of people, such as Adam, have been a huge influence in converting me to being a Twitter addict.
I'm Jo Russell. I'm a geriatric registrar, and I knew Adam through Twitter.
It's wonderful to meet you, Jo. Thank you. Alison?
Hi, I'm Alison, or otherwise known as AliC375 on Twitter. I can cope with that better than I can cope with real life. Fellow patient leader on the same list as Adam was, but neither of us were that patient because we want change and we want it quickly, please.
Brilliant.
Hello, I'm Vanessa Guarantee, friends of Alex and also Adam's mum and dad as well, all through Twitter, like everybody else.
And Vanessa, you and Kirsty arranged the most amazing party for Adam.
Yeah, so we arranged a party in this room, not last year, the year before now, wasn't it, for Ads, and then obviously a few months back as well, this room was dedicated to Ads members, so this is a special place to visit as well for me, where I remember Ads and the Christmas party in particular, which I think was a really special day, and I'm just so glad that we were able to do that now.
My name's Gina Catini. I'm a radiographer at Leeds Teaching Hospitals, and I've just come to know about Adam through Zoe, so I just wanted to come to today and find out some more and what I can do to help Kath.
Carmen Soto, or Gourmet Penguin. And I never got to meet Adam in real life, but that never stopped him telling me off on telling me how I should do my job much better than I was doing it at the time, and I really miss that.
I'm Dominic Stenning. Yeah, I'm a bit of a Twitter addict myself, @patient, school leader, and I came across Adam on Twitter, and I only recently found out when I heard Zoe talk, his mum, about Adam, and I feel so gutted I didn't hit that profile and find out more, because what an inspirational person, and to fit so much in such a short life. So I think I'm here really just to hear about everything he did. And, yeah, it's an honour to be here.
Hi, my name's Leanne, and unlike most people here, I'm not on Twitter. But I might be by the end of today.
Thanks, Leanne.
Hi, I'm Annie Coops, and I never met Adam in real life either, but I did meet him a lot on Twitter, and I remember talking to him while he was on the ward and having some quite long conversations with him there. So, and I'm delighted to be here today. And I've got about, well, it's going up and down, but I've had up to 14 people on Periscope, so I'll keep going.
Fantastic. And if you want a Twitter lesson, she's the one that's going to.
Hello, my name's Rachel, and I'm the lead nurse for children's cancer at the Leeds Children's Hospitals Trust, just up the road.
Hi, my name's Louise Porter. I'm lead nurse for healthcare transition and children and young people at Leeds Teaching Hospitals Trust. Not on Twitter, and I'm happy to be converted by anybody. Another one. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ruth Evans, and I'm from the Patient Experience Network. I didn't meet Adam apart from through Twitter, and his 140 characters made such a difference to my life. Delighted to be here today. I'm at Penn News, but I feel I need to change my name to something much more exciting.
Thanks, Ruth. And I'm Jill. You've met me. I'm Jill at Who's Shoes. But I think it's fascinating that we all had our own different relationships with Adam. And as well as the he, I think mine was kind of through poetry, because that was a link that we got in common, and some of it a bit off the wall.
I'm Dean Royals, I don't do Twitter. NHS.
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm the best Joe on Twitter, and I met Adam at that Christmas party in 2014, and I will never forget the moment. And I'm here because I want to be like Adam and to treat everybody for what's behind them, and to know the people and the patients I treat. And every day I aspire, I have inspiration from Adam.
Thanks, Joe.
Hi, I'm Shani Sparkles. I'm here to help shine a light under patient experience. I'm here to hold Adam's light brightly and let him sparkle. And I've also been entrusted with the world, so I'm about to put my cape on and sort the world out.
Hi, I'm Jenny the M on Twitter. I met Adam on Twitter. I never met him in real life, but I feel like I had a real connection with him. We used to get up to things on Twitter and make each other laugh and tell each other poems, and we're always he-ing together. So I feel like I really knew him well, and I obviously know Zoe and Paul now because of Adam, which is amazing. And I will keep championing patient care from my perspective as a midwife, and also as a, I want to keep going to help patients make life better for them and for staff as well.
Hi, my name's Steve. I run a healthcare social enterprise based in the wild west of Cornwall, and Adam, for me, and for everything I do, has opened up a whole new world of possibilities, and I don't think most of the people here I wouldn't have met if it hadn't been for Adam, and it's really valuable. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tenez. I work for, or volunteer for, I should say, for the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health, and I know Adam through Twitter and through Zoe, and he has been inspiring me for ages through his Twitters, and has really helped me have a really impassioned cause for all the advocacy I do for children's rights and welfare, because I think his voice has really strengthened mine when I go out and speak to healthcare professionals like those in the room today, to really strengthen the support that young people get in the future. So thank you, Adam.
We'll be tweeting that. His voice has really really strengthened by more nuts and bolts against so thank you.
Hi, I'm Natalie. I work here at the venue Horizon, and we first met Adam when we had Ad's party 2 years ago, and then now this space is named Ad's Space, and we're here to help carry on Adam's legacy in any way we can help with.
Ditto. I work here at Horizon as well. I'm Tracy. I'm at 128 Little Red on Twitter. I've never really been into Twitter before, but since I've been following Adam, been tweeting and getting used to how to use it. I think it's great, sort of reading all his poems and what the lovely things everybody has to say about him.
Wow. And if you are out there on Periscope, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and please do tweet us a picture of you, share with us how Adam's actually inspired you. We'd love to know about it, because today's about a conversation. It's not about me giving you a presentation. I hope we can have an open dialogue with each other, actually identifying how Adam's inspired us, but also how we begin to actually move forward and ensure that we live Adam's legacy as well. So, who knows the connection? This is where we go back to Zoe and Paul. Tell us about Eggheads.
Well, Adam was a huge Eggheads fan, and when he was interviewed once by someone from the BBC, I think it was when his song was in the charts, they heard that he was an Eggheads fan and arranged for him to go and watch a recording of the Eggheads. And he loved being there and seeing it. And then, in fact, CJ, one of the Eggheads, came to visit Adam when he was in Great Ormond Street in London, because they kept in touch. And then Adam used to always watch the Eggheads. It was one of the highlights of his day, particularly when he was in hospital. And he even tried to get other people into it, but some people didn't like it.
Come on, your face says it all.
But about two or 3 years after Adam visited the Eggheads, it was when he was in hospital, he had the Eggheads 10th anniversary book, and we were just looking through it, and each of the Eggheads had a page where they answered several questions about the Eggheads, and we were reading through it and fell off our chairs when we read that Pat the Egghead, in answer to the question, what was the best thing in the last 10 years of Eggheads, said that it was when Adam visited the Eggheads.
So, I suspect that rather than the question about Paddington Bear's real name, if we were to bring his challenges up to date, we might want to ask the Eggheads some questions. So this is where I need a bit of help, actually. So, what percentage of our population in England are children and young people? Any ideas? Ruth, author of an amazing report on children and youth experience. I don't know. Rachel, well done. Now then, Smarties have the answer. Now those people on Periscope, aren't you sorry you're not here? Thank you very much for that. Okay, so next challenge. Oh. Oh no, I've broken it again. I'm so sorry, what have I done? Ah, there we go, brilliant. Okay, sorry. What percentage of our children and young people have a long-term condition? 5, 20, 10, 8, 15. Lovely. Fantastic. Okay, what percentage have a disability? 10. 12. 12. percentage of all of our primary care work relates to children and young people? 2. 5. 10. Keep going. 20. 55, a bit lower.
47.
47, bit lower.
46 and a half.
45, a bit lower. 40! Gourmet penguin, you get your smarties. And from the Royal College of GPs analysis of primary care activity, 40% actually relates to children and young people. What percentage of A&E work relates to children and young people? 25, not far off it, Ruth. You got there, well done. 25 to 30%, depending on your particular trust. What percentage of adult mental health problems mental health problems in adulthood start in childhood by the age of 14? I've got 50, I've got 60. Who said 50? There you go. 50% of all adult mental health problems have actually started by the age of 14, which just reinforces how important this prevention agenda actually is. Okay, how many young carers do we actually have? Paul's getting really excited here. Dave, I bet you're getting really excited. Go for it, guys. How many have we got? 700,000. Really different. I should have actually given you a box each, guys, shouldn't I?
That's right.
There you go. It is cheating a bit, actually, because it's your game, isn't it? So. Okay. This one's a really challenging one for me. How many children each year are bereaved of a parent?
It said it depends on the one in every classroom definition. One in every classroom, yeah.
Is that bereaved through death or illness?
Death. Yes. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I should have clarified that. 33 percentage or 33,000? It's actually, I'll give it to Sharon because she's nearly there. She's working hard there. I can see the brain cells ticking over.
Mr. Technical next to me challenging questions.
There you go. Okay. Actually, it's 24,000 children every year are bereaved of a parent. Now, if anyone feels as though they're really missing out on smart there are some spares there. But I wonder if either of the eggheads could have actually answered those. So, in terms of beginning to actually focus on why this agenda is so important, I think it is really helpful to have the data at our fingertips. What did Deming say? What did Deming say? In God we trust, in all others, we must bring data. And actually having that data is really important to us. So 15 million children and young people are within our population. That's about 25%. 15% have a long-term condition. 6% have a disability. 40% of all primary care activity relates to children and young people. 30% of emergency department activity relates to children and young people. 50% of all mental health problems in adulthood start by the age of 14. 700,000 are young carers, and particularly those young people who are supporting families who are affected by addiction are often unheard and unseen. 24,000 children a year are bereaved of a parent. And what's really interesting here, I think, is that the incidence of youth offenders can be 10 times higher than in the average population. So those children who are actually in the criminal justice system, who are actually affected by child sexual exploitation and safeguarding challenges, when you begin to actually dig a little bit deeper, what you will find is that things started to derail a bit when Mum died, when Dad died. So I think we've got some real challenges, but also some opportunities on which to actually focus as well. And over the last 3 years, we've seen a real focus on children and young people's experience. And I think it's worth just reminding ourselves how children feel, how they can feel when they use our services as well. At the bottom of this slide is a little message from Daniel. I visited Daniel in a secondary school, and I wasn't visiting him specifically, I was actually visiting the class to do a piece of engagement work a few years ago. And Daniel pulled me to one side and said, you know what, Kath, I've just spent 2 weeks in my local district general hospital. He said, I had pneumonia. He said, I had my IVs, and I had my fluids, and we did my observations. Nobody came and talked to me. Nobody seemed to understand how worried and how scared I was. And what I promised Daniel at that stage was that I'd take that message back and I would share it at every opportunity to allow us to step into the shoes of a child and just think for a moment, how does it feel for them? And there's a lovely Indian proverb that talks about blind men experiencing an elephant and seeing and touching and smelling different parts and coming up with different ideas about what this elephant could possibly be. We don't know how it is for children and young people using our services unless we create that space to actually have those conversations, to actually really find out how it is for them. You know, I've been nursing now for, 27 years. I thought I knew how it was to be a child. Most of my career has actually been within clinical practice in children's nursing. But it was Adam's poem that really inspired me when I first came to NHS England. It was one of his blogs. Somebody had asked me, what does good care look like, Kath? And I said, oh, we've got the National Service Framework. We've got sort of, you know, this pile high of documents that says what good care looks like. But it was Adam that was really clear and really educated me, possibly educated me far more effectively than any nice guidance could have possibly actually done. He says, in the good hospitals, start talking to me. And they involve me in decisions about my care. They ask me what I want and what I don't want. Staff talk to Mum and Dad and ask them about me. Staff talk to each other and they pass on important information about me. If staff don't know something, they're not afraid to say it and to ask someone who does. Sometimes that might even be Mum and Dad. Staff treat me as an individual and recognise the things I can do. They don't jump to negative stereotypes and prejudices about me because I'm physically impaired. Staff have time for me. They're friendly and they're chatty. And they make me feel as if I matter. They work with me. They treat us all, Mum and Dad, as if we matter. I'm never left alone when I'm seriously ill. I find this bit really hard to read. I'm never in a room with the door closed so that staff can't see me. And this is really important because we know that Adam actually had a trachea. When I'm really ill, doctors come quick and do everything necessary to make me better. I'm not left critically ill for hours without care. I always feel that I'm getting the best care possible. I'm never made to feel second-class citizen for whom it doesn't matter if I live or I die. And Adam's words by that blog have really focused me on what good care really means, not through the eyes of a healthcare professional, but through the eyes of a child. And there are some children, from a safeguarding perspective, where we possibly haven't seen things through their eyes, where we've had opportunities to step into their shoes. These are the children that sit on my shoulder, and I'm sure that there are many children and experiences who sit on your shoulder as well. Victoria, Peter, Daniel, up in the middle of the country, Lucy, all children where we had an opportunity to listen, to focus on their experiences and to move things forward. And just to put that into context about why this is so important, I'd like to share this very brief, short clip with you.
See where I live. See where I sleep. See what I eat. See where I play. See my teacher who doesn't see me. See where I fall. See the doctor who says everything will be alright. See where they put me when I've been bad. See the social workers trying to get in. See where Mum pushed me too hard. See the ambulance that comes. See the policeman. See the neighbour's flowers. See the news. See the politicians blaming each other. See the inquiry they would up. See their report. See where it goes. See it happening all over again.
I think we've got a real opportunity to keep seeing the child, to keep challenging ourselves, but also to make sure that we really do create a learning culture that is focused on the voice of the child. And I think if we get better at actually engaging children and young people, there are going to be ripple effects within a safeguarding perspective, as well as within a societal perspective. Fixers is an amazing charity. Anybody done any work with Fixers? Sharon's agreeing.
Honour. Amazing organisation.
Brilliant. So they are linked to ITV actually. It's a public service broadcasting trust, aren't they, Sharon? And they work with 16 to 25-year-olds to capture their experiences and to work with young people to support them to then create change. And Margot, the chief exec, is an amazing force for good. She was at a child sexual exploitation conference with a young lady who'd experienced CSE last week. And Siobhan, the young lady that shared her narrative, was amazing, incredibly brave. But it was also very clear that Siobhan had been through a process of support and facilitation that had led her to being able to actually share her narrative. So we're doing more and more work now with Fixers to ensure that we are capturing the narratives of our young people and then using those narratives, not purely within the NHS, but more widely within society as well. And I was at a conference probably 3 years ago where a young lady actually shared her experience, a very uncomfortable experience, of actually using our health services. And after a long discussion with her, and a discussion about did she want to complain, she was very clear, you know, I don't want to complain, Kath. What I want to do is make sure that this doesn't happen to another young person. And she was able to work with Fixers and create the next short clip that I'd like to share with you.
When I was 9, I became incontinent. My GP sent me and my parents to the hospital. He just put it down to attention seeking. Trust me, if I was going to seek attention, it wouldn't be by writing myself in school. It was just embarrassing. I felt so silly and sad. At the hospital, every second, butterflies grew inside me.
Hannah, the doctor will see you now. Come with me.
I was taken down hall into a separate room, and then finally a separate area. For some reason, my mum didn't follow. The curtain was drawn around me. I was really frightened. I found it hard to hear what the doctor was saying. The doctor tested my reflexes while I sat on the bed. And then told me to lie down. The nurse repeated what he said, and she was shouting at me. Then the doctor pulled down my trousers and pants. I quickly tried to pull them back up, but the nurse told me they had to examine me. I've never spoken about it to anyone until now, and I don't really want to say any more about it. I look back now, and it still upsets me. I was 9, my mum wasn't with me, no one was introduced, no one told me what was happening. I was completely powerless. As a child I could do nothing. I had no control, and I was scared.
We shared that, didn't we, Therese? I'm just thinking at the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health annual conference for the first time last year, it was last April, wasn't it? We had 1,700 paediatricians watching that. Couldn't hear a pin drop, could you? And the social media coverage that Fixers and the young lady involved, whose name has changed, had was quite significant. But perhaps what was even more significant, apart from the discussion of the ripple effect that that actually caused during the conference, there was one paediatrician, Damien Rowland, who actually tweeted that it was probably the most powerful piece of learning that he'd had during the conference, was the fact that the young lady who had that experience was sitting in the middle of the 1,700 paediatricians, and she saw everyone's responses. And she came out and said, "That's what I wanted. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted people to sit up, take notice about my experience," and she'd done it. She's since gone off to do our nurse training. And I know that she's going to be an amazing nurse. But it just goes to show as well the power of listening, but also the power of good facilitation, good involvement. I think there's more that we can be doing on that agenda. Now, Adam sent me a blog. I think probably it might have been with Mum's help somehow. But it said on this blog, together we can do great things, which is where we've had the inspiration for today's discussion, really. We now know the data. We know our opportunities. We now know the narratives, what's actually happening out there. Our challenge is, how do we move forward? How do we take this agenda forward together? Because I don't think that the NHS can do this alone. I think we need children, young people and families and the voluntary sector all collaborate to actually move this agenda forward together. I'm a bit of a Don Berwick fan, I admit. Chief Executive as was and instigator of the Institute of Healthcare Improvement, also happens to be a paediatrician, which may indicate as to why I'm a bit of a fan as well. But Don reminds us that we've always got two jobs. We've got the job of the day job, but we've also got the job of improvement as well. How do we keep challenging ourselves? How do we keep thinking we can do better? We can move forward. So I was reflecting on Nelson Mandela and his quote, "There can be no keener revelation of the society's soul than the way in which it treats its children," is really quite powerful. I'd like to make a slight addition, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind somehow, because I wonder as to whether we need to focus on those most vulnerable children much, much more than we've currently done. Those children, I'm just looking at Sharon again, experiencing refugee status at the moment, our asylum-seeking families, our children significantly affected by poverty, our looked-after children, our children with learning disabilities, our children with mental ill health. Do we need much more focus? And again, another hero of mine, the first Children's Commissioner for England, Sir Al Ainsworth-Green, reminds us that children are the living messages that we send to a time we will not see. Can we, in all honesty, stand up and say that we're proud of how we're supporting our 25% of the population? I'm not sure I can at the moment. And we need wonderful people like Ingrid Wolf. Ingrid is a paediatrician. She's also a statistician, an epidemiologist, an amazing lady. And if I was a child, I'd want to be cared for by Ingrid. But Ingrid reminds us of that Charles Dickens quote. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. We are seeing so much progress with regard to child health. And yet, Ingrid reminds us of 5 a day. That's not 5 fruit and vegetables. That's 5 children a day die in the UK because our healthcare system doesn't perform as well as Sweden. So many missed lives and opportunities. We can still do so much better. And another amazing leader, Chief Medical Officer of England, Dame Sally Davies. I have pulled on a lot of female leaders here, Carl. Are you impressed? Yeah, okay. So Dame Sally is a haematologist by background, and her career was focused on sickle cell. And that's very close to my heart because I spent a lot of time in my clinical nursing career actually supporting children with the sickle cell. So again, you know, that real connection. And Dame Sally's report of 2012-2013 focused on our children deserve better, prevention pays. And of course, as you'd expect, Sally actually highlights improved outcomes for our current and future generations of children and young people are not only a moral responsibility, but also an economic imperative. We know that there are opportunities here economically as well, and I think we need to get better at articulating that if we're actually going to create the momentum that we need. A particular hero of mine, another female leader there, Eglantine Jenny, actually wrote... Great name. It is a great name, isn't it? Thanks of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. Apparently, she sat on a hillside in Geneva and wrote 5 things that she thought that we needed to be doing to focus on children and young people. And this quote really resonates. Humanity owes the child the very best it has to give. And of course, we know that Adam used very appropriately the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. Again, he performed. He did perform, actually. A wonderful summary. And of course, Charlie Dog has gone on to actually reinforce the use and the importance of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child in the most engaging way possible. So thank you, Charlie Dog, for that. There are 3 articles that I think are really important that we actually have on our walls, that we actually imprint in our memories. That every child has the right to express their views freely in all matters affecting them. That they have the right to information. This really challenges us when we think about health literacy and how accessible do we make our health information particularly. And then that all of our children and young people have the right to the best healthcare possible. Are all of our workforce skilled and competent in the care of children and young people? What more can we actually be doing to take that forward? So lots of challenges there. Within a statutory requirement that we signed up to in 1991, and each year we need to make a declaration to the World Health Organization that we are actually achieving that as well. So there's a statutory requirement there. And then, of course, we've got the good old Health and Social Care Act of 2012, and it really clear there the importance of user involvement, not purely, and for those people who've got grey, and I do have some grey hair, the grey head brigade, it's really important that that's across the lifespan as well. That level of engagement in our public participation groups in our GP practices, as well as in our healthcare organisations, our secondary care hospital organisations. I love the fact that my old hospital, Eastern North Hertfordshire, has now got over 1,500 young members, really beginning to shift the conversations and actually focusing on children and young people. And I think they can really inspire us to think and engage children and young people in different ways. And then, of course, more recently, we've got the Children and Families Act of 2014, which specifically focuses on our most vulnerable children and young people, those with special educational needs and disabilities. And it highlights that local authorities, but as we work right across the system now, they have to be, that is children and young people, at the centre of decision making, enabling them to participate fully in an informed way to ensure that they actually achieve their best possible outcomes. So we have got a plethora of statutory legislation out there to actually drive us forward on this agenda. I'm going to go back to children's literature as well, because Adam was a reader. He loved his books. I'm not sure, was he really into J.K. Rowling? Excellent, good, another big connection there. So a child's voice, however honest and true, is meaningless to those who've forgotten how to listen. And again, I challenge us, as a society, have we forgotten how to listen to children and young people? So a bit of audience participation here. Are children and young people competent communicators? Hands up if you think they are. Almost everyone, yeah. Oh, Dave's on the fence there. Okay, we'll come back to that. I would suggest that even the youngest child is a competent communicator. What we perhaps as professionals need are the skills to actually work with them, to actually understand how they are communicating with us. So I think it's about our responsibility as adults to develop those skills. I think there's a real opportunity to work much harder at individual engagement and collective involvement of the public generally, but specifically on this occasion with our children and young people to improve health and well-being. And again, we've got some evidence that we can actually pull on to actually say we need to focus on this. So it was Tinez. All thanks to Tinez. Tinez, I remember you co-chairing in the middle of a tweet there, weren't you? I remember you co-chairing a meeting that was full of people in suits, grey suits, deadly boring. I mean, the discussion was quite interesting, but you know, it was full of grey suits. And we were talking about children and young people's insight, about their engagement. We were talking about the national survey programme, totally focused on adults, and how do we shift it to actually engage children and young people. I can't remember anything terribly about the meeting, I admit it, even though I took the minutes very diligently. Apart from Tinez's comment at the end of the meeting, that will stay with me forever. It's one of those comments that sits on my shoulder. Tinez said, in my 19 years of using health services, and I've used GP services, I've used A&E services, I've used outpatient services, you name it. Tinez, you've used every service, possibly, yeah? No one has ever once said, what matters to you, Tinez? What's good? What can be better? And it was Tinez's words that resonated with the Care Quality Commission, the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health, the Royal College of Nursing, NHS England, all of the key players that we had around the table. Then beavered away to make sure that we had a children's national survey of inpatient experiences. So I thank you for that, Tinez, because all of the Children's Outcomes Forum work and report was really important. Again, nice key document, but actually it's the narrative that really matters. And from that national survey, we actually had the information that 43% of our 12 to 15-year-olds told us that they weren't as fully involved in decisions about their care as they wanted to be. We can work harder on this. So there are two elements, and I just want to reinforce this. Again, how do we work with children on a one-to-one basis to encourage them to actively participate, but also then how do we work collectively to actually involve them in the design and delivery of services as well? And if we go back to Dame Sally again, if we do that, we achieve moral and economic results and benefits. I think when we begin to have those conversations, we actually shift cultures. We begin to warm the climate. So our current language, for example, is an outpatient appointment. We had a fascinating discussion with a patient panel last week. There was one young lady who said, you know what, outpatient appointments aren't just outpatient appointments, they're life-changing days. I can see Dominic nodding his head there. She said, some of my outpatient appointments I remember just as clearly as my wedding day. And I wonder as to whether as healthcare professionals we really take that on board. The other piece of language that we use routinely is did not attend, DNA. But when it comes to children and safeguarding, it's not did not attend, it's was not brought. Therefore, we need to do something about it. And it's when we have these rich conversations outside our professional teams that we are really challenged and move this forward. And I'd also suggest, particularly from the last 3 years and the work that we've seen across the country, is that involvement, participation and engagement is an under-recognised and underutilised therapeutic tool one young lady who worked with us on the NHS Youth Forum for the last 2 years, she had leukemia and she had chronic fatigue from all of her chemotherapy. When she came to us, she was in a wheelchair and was pretty exhausted actually for much of the time. And she said, you know, I wasn't quite sure where my life was actually going. I'd been through this, you know, life-changing event. I'd been cured, in inverted commas, but I wasn't sure what was going to happen to me. Well, she's worked incredibly hard, really got engaged in a number of things, and I'm now delighted to say that she's a youth worker at Bernardo's. And she said, you know, my life has totally changed. I've got a real focus. And that's just one story. And I know that many of you around the room will have been involved with young people who have had similar outcomes through participation that really flourish. And yet, the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health have done 60 invited reviews. So they've sent teams of paediatricians into sites across the country. And the one universal element that they were able to pick up that was consistent across all of those 60 sites was that user involvement was noted to be universally poor. We might be doing the friends and family test for children and young people, but there wasn't any further imagination about how we take this forward now. And I love this quote from Maya Angelou. Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. And I think we're beginning to know now what we can be doing better. We need to get on with it. Because there are significant benefits actually when we involve children and young people. They become leaders in their own care. They become self-advocates. Their confidence builds. They experience people really listening to them. Trust builds. They're more likely to share information, and they'll also speak the truth as well, which can be challenging on occasions. They also take on peer supporter roles. They become health champions. They become advocates within their families and within their peer groups. And involvement in commissioning and delivery in services that meet need ends up with them actually having services that really do focus on them. And again, another really powerful quote for me: tell me and I'll forget. Teach me and I'll remember. Involve me and I'll learn. I'm going to go back to children's literature again. What did Adam think of Winnie the Pooh?
He used to be Winnie the Pooh, and his cousin was Piglet when they were very little.
Fantastic! I didn't know that. Thank you. So, A.A. Milne and Winnie the Pooh actually remind us, you know what? We can't stay in our corner of the forest waiting for others to come to us. We have to go to them sometimes. Just functioning within our healthcare environments, within our walls, is not enough. We need to go out. We need to get into our youth clubs. We need to actually build relationships with our local primary schools, with our local secondary schools, have those conversations to actually take this agenda forward. One of the pieces of work that is a few years old now is the work that we actually did with primary schools in terms of beginning to have conversations about what's primary care and what services can you access. Your pharmacist, your GP, your children's community nurse, your health visitor, your school nurse. And then when do you actually need to really use your GP services, or a walk-in centre even, and A&E services? And what we found was actually those children were conveying messages back to their home environments as well. When we wanted to get the country recycling, we invested significantly in educating children. They went home and inspired us to do the recycling. I'm not sure yet that as a health service we've really engaged the opportunity of doing much, much more work with schools about the whole healthcare agenda. I know Sharon is doing amazing work with school nursing. But when you've only got, what, 1,200 school nurses for 24,000 schools?
It's a challenge.
It's a bit of a challenge, absolutely. So again, a really limited workforce doing amazing things, but something that needs real focus as well. We also know that as well as benefits to children and young people, there are huge benefits to staff as well. Who regularly engages with children and young people as part of Darren? Yeah, fantastic. I don't know about you, but they give me so much energy. They really do inspire me. If ever I'm feeling, oh my goodness, this is tough, a session with a group of young people is amazing. Ideas can be explored, developed or shared. Our confidence as professionals flourishes so that when we've got positive relationships, actually when there are difficult situations, we go into them with much more confidence. Our energy levels and our commitment increases. We begin to talk in patient stories. Tinners, I share your narrative everywhere I go. We lead with our hearts as well as with our minds, because it becomes personal. And services become more effective and more person-centred. So, for the last 2 years, we've attempted to actually be really practical. And it's thanks to the amazing support of North Central London Education Team and Health Education England that we've been able to develop a resource called CYP, Me First. Has anybody heard of the model of Sage in Time? Yeah? Some people, brilliant, thanks Paul, yeah? So Sage in Time was actually developed to actually improve communication skills between healthcare professionals and also support staff, but also users of our services when they're in very vulnerable situations. And taking that model, we had a conversation saying, could we actually develop something that was specifically focused on children and young people to actually improve our communication between them? So in total co-production with young people themselves, this piece of work has been led by the amazing Kate Martin and the team at Great Ormond Street in terms of developing this resource. So it's an online resource. And I know, Jo, you've been involved in this as well, haven't you? With the Who Shoes game, which is fantastic. So again, facilitating conversations. To really begin to get practical about what are the key hints and tips that we can actually be doing to engage children and young people much more effectively and to build our confidence as healthcare professionals. And I love one of the tips from the clinical nurse specialist who was at the event that I was at, because there are a programme of study days as well. You know what? I get the young people to get their phone out and I get them to take a photograph of their action plan, the key points that they are going to do. Should of course we have a discussion about confidentiality, and of course we're careful about what we write there, you know, that's the usual governance stuff. But actually, that physical connection of a young person taking responsibility, taking that picture, owning it on their phone, and not being written on a piece of paper that's going to get washed in their jeans is really, really powerful. And that's what the resource actually does. It's really, really practical, with loads of hints and tips and blogs from young people themselves as well. So if you haven't had a look, please do. And please do tweet about it as well if you possibly can. That would be amazing. So for the last 2 years, we were really committed at NHS England to actually role modelling to the system that actually we can embed young people's voice, to challenge the executive team and to hold them to account. I'm not sure if we probably made as good a use of this as we possibly could have, and I think that's ongoing work that I need to take responsibility for and take forward. But this, we've had 2 cohorts now of young people that have really worked with us, and they've led specific programmes of work. Importantly, what we've been able to do is pull together a guide so that if other organisations want to develop their own youth forums, and many organisations have already got this in place. I'm looking at Leeds, for example. I know you've got groups of young people that work brilliantly with you, and Birmingham Children's and Great Ormond Street, lots. Not everyone has. So, you know, this was sort of, you know, a bit of assistance really to the system to say this is how we go forward. And these young people have been absolutely amazing. And one of the things that I just wanted to pick out was the diversity. So you will see two pictures here. You will see a group of bright, enthusiastic, smiling, very diverse young people. The other picture is the NHS England board. Because it's Periscope, I'm not going to say anything more. It's really career limiting, actually. But again, I just think that it just reinforces the freshness and the diversity that young people can bring to us and can really challenge. Our NHS Youth Forum is made up of young people from all different backgrounds, young people who have used mental health services, young people who've got learning disabilities, young people who are looked after in the care system, young people who have complex, chronic healthcare needs, young people who are young carers as well, of very vulnerable people within their families. That richness and their narrative really challenges us and actually moves us forward. They've led some really wonderful pieces of work, some work on confidentiality, on consent, on giving feedback. They said, you know what, we don't understand the information that's currently out there, so we'll rewrite it for you. So they've done it. It's fantastic. And they said, you know what, don't put it on notice boards, put it on the back of a toilet door, because that's where we'll sit and actually read it as well. And it's that type of information that is just so helpful as well. These are on the NHS England website. And again, interestingly, another group of young people down in Bristol came back and said, you know what, we're not too happy about the language that's been used within confidentiality, so this is what we suggest you change it to. So they helped reword it as well. So there's that real spirit of collaboration as well, which is exciting. One of the things that we've also been able to do is create an easy read version of this as well, so our young people with learning disabilities can actually access this information, and again that's on the NHS England website as well. Now, how many of you are used to key performance indicators? Oh yes, yes, there you go. So the young people decided, you know what, we don't want key KPIs. What we'd like are killer questions. So these are their killer questions on young carers that actually they want to take out to their patient and public participation groups, to their local hospitals, to actually have conversations. What are you actually doing about identifying young carers, for example? How are you connecting with your local communities? And we can certainly tweet those out for those people on Periscope, but for those of us in the room, there are some cards with some of those killer questions from the young people themselves. And they've also done some killer questions on transition as well. We know that we can do lots of work, and we know that we need to do better about actually improving how we prepare young people to actually move into adult services, but actually we also need to have that conversation with our adult colleagues as well. And again, these killer questions really bring to life all of those big documents, a NICE guidance, a Care Quality Commission report, etc., in a really clear way. And that's all totally young person led. And we need to get much better at sharing the good stuff. So Southampton have done some amazing work on Ready, Steady, Go. Hello, a transition programme that actually starts at 11 all the way up into adult services. I can see Rachel nodding her head because you're on board with this in Leeds as well, aren't you, which is fantastic. And again, rather than reinventing the wheel, we haven't got time to keep on developing our own programmes. We just need to actually be sharing and spreading. The work of the transition programme is really exciting and it's really gathering momentum now. And we know that young people feel more in control, but also, again, there are economic benefits. So I think in Leeds, you've already seen a reduction in your diabetes admissions when they've actually been through a really strong transition programme. So you've got better control into adulthood. We certainly know with our young people who've had renal transplants, whereas previously, when they're actually moving into adult services, they were often losing their transplants. Actually, the retention has increased significantly. And Arvind, who's a consultant paediatrician down in Southampton, is really giving great leadership to this whole agenda. So, a bit of another egghead challenge, but I haven't got egghead music here, so apologies for that. How do we keep including children and young people in their care and in the design and delivery of services? How do we think about those models, those frameworks of participation and engagement? So there are lots out there, there's a big evidence base. Well, actually, the NHS Youth Forum have been really, really practical. So they said that the frameworks are great, but they've come up with a poster. You might be able to see the poster actually on your tables. There's certainly one up here. So, what do they want? They want to be involved strategically in the design and delivery of services. So how do we actually make that happen? What else do they want? They want us to go out and listen to existing groups. So they don't always want us to create new opportunities. They want us to get out of our forests, into our local youth parliaments. All of our local authorities have got them. All of our local authorities have got looked after children councils, schools, student forums. They want us to be proactive and to reach out and to hear our voices. That's what they're telling us. And I think it's really useful to focus on those children and young people who are most vulnerable, and how do we think about how we actually get out and have those conversations, particularly with our young people who have physical disabilities, but also importantly learning disabilities as well. And I think, Zoe, you tweeted out this lovely picture actually. What are we looking for as we move forward? Exclusion, segregation, integration, actually inclusion. And when I look at that picture of the NHS Youth Forum, the Youth Forum is inclusive. We've got all of those different young people coming together and working together. And I know Adam and Zoe and Paul have been hugely influential in the development of Disability Matters from the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health, and Dr. Karen Horridge, another hugely influential leader, has really actually progressed this whole agenda of children with disabilities, and also importantly the data collection behind that as well. Kitty Pat, who's pictured here with Karen, has been working with me now for a number of years, and Kitty Pat has really challenged me about how we make sure that young people with disabilities' voices are included. And Kitty Pat worked with Fixers, and I'd like to share Kitty Pat's film with you about his experience and his advice to us. I'm always very impressed at how fast Kitty Pat's chair goes. I bet your chair goes quite fast as well. Young people tell us that they want to be involved, they want to co-produce solutions. As Kitty Pat highlighted so eloquently, they want to be consulted. Consult with me first and not last. Get me involved. Appoint youth board ambassadors and board members who are champions for children and young people, board members who take the time to actually get to know young people. Embrace social media. I know we have lots of people embracing social media here today. And work with our partners as well, the voluntary sector. We know that they've already got those relationships, those connections with our young people. We can't always have the time and the resources to establish them, but actually our partners are there already. Let's work collaboratively with them. And importantly, we need to develop the future. Our young people really flourish when we give them the time. We certainly saw that at the school nursing conference, didn't we, Sharon?
Just a little bit.
Yeah,
We did
an amazing
indeed.
international school nursing conference this year, and the participation, the leadership from the young people was really outstanding. It's really super. And then we can actually involve them in recruitment processes, and NHS employers have done a wonderful job this year of actually compiling a guide on how to involve children and young people in recruitment processes, with lots of examples of best practice from across the country from organisations that are already doing this as well. Hold meetings and events that are fun and make the times appropriate for young people. Our young people from the Youth Forum often catch up using Facebook, but actually they'll have webinars together, they'll use Skype, and you know, it's just how they actually do business. And feedback. They need feedback. They need us to tell them how they're actually doing, and they really value that feedback as well. We need to do more of that. But just as they feed back to us, we need to make sure that we're seeking feedback from them. And just as Tinez highlighted a few years ago now, that he never been asked for feedback. Only last week, Amy from the NHS Youth Forum, again another significant user of services, said, as a young person, I've never been asked for feedback. So even 2 years on, we haven't actually cracked this consistently. So the posters are there for you to take away and share, and please do keep tweeting about initiatives, the ideas and work that you're taking forward locally. And the CYP-EXP hashtag has got a variety of examples that are just keeping this conversation really live as well. As chatting with Dominic earlier about the new models of care and the vanguards. And the challenge really are all of those vanguard sites and new models of care thinking about children and young people in their work programmes as they go forward. Given that they're 25% of the population, are they thinking about person-centred care and what it means for a child? When we're thinking about services and working in partnerships, are they thinking about those children's services? Is there a real focus on equality and narrowing health inequalities from the perspective of the child? Young carers, are they identified? I had to fix this one because actually what's missing there is education. So they were talking about, I say they, we, NHS England, we're talking about voluntary communities, social enterprises, housing as enablers. We totally missed out education. We have to get better at thinking about how do we encourage and work with our education partners as well. We need to think about youth volunteering and what more we can actually be doing, and social actions as enablers. There's much more work that we need to continue to push forward with the new models of care site. So as healthcare professionals, our language is joined up thinking, holistic care, team around the child, coordinated, needs-based, all of that language that's very familiar to us. But from a children and young people's perspective, it's about support that's personal, respect and being listened to. It's about choice and control. It's about support to achieve dreams and goals, support for the people that are important to me, awareness of changes and growing up rather than transition, friends, relationships and people around me that matter, support to lead a full independent life. And I wonder as to whether we as healthcare professionals can all help to be that bridge between that professional language and between children, young people, and importantly, their families. Even though it's 2004, and some would say old policy, those 5 elements of promoting good outcomes for children and young people still resonate. We want our children to be healthy. We want them to stay safe. We want them to enjoy and achieve. We want them to be able to make a positive contribution and to achieve economic well-being. When we work in partnership, we can deliver on those 5 outcomes. And again, when we think of our models of care, our commissioning processes, our engaged, informed communities, our healthcare professionals working in partnership, our organisational and support processes around that person, are we always thinking, and what does this mean for children and young people? So our challenges then, which I hope Adam would actually agree with, can we, like Adam, champion the voice and involvement of children, young people and families in all that we do? How do we really secure executive leadership in all organisations that advocate for and with children and young people? And what more can we be doing? Perhaps that's an opportunity for our conversation. What more can we be doing? Carmen and I had a visit recently down to Brighton, didn't we? We had a lovely time looking at a children's advocacy service. I'd love to see an institute of children and young people's health, advocacy, experience. That would be my vision. Not sure how we make it happen. It's never stopped us in the past, really, has it? Looking at Carmen's eye. Importantly, how are we all hummingbirds? Here's a little bit of inspiration, she says, when I click the right button.
we are constantly being bombarded by problems that we face, and sometimes we can get completely overwhelmed. The story of the hummingbird is about this huge forest being consumed by a fire. All the animals in the forest come out and they are transfixed as they watch the forest burning, and they feel very overwhelmed, very powerless, except this little hummingbird. It says, I'm going to do something about the fire. So it flies to the nearest stream, takes a drop of water, puts it on the fire, and goes up and down, up and down, up and down, as fast as it can. In the meantime, all the other animals, much bigger animals, like the elephants, with a big trunk, would bring much more water. They are standing there helpless, and they are saying to the hummingbird, what do you think you can do? You're too little. This fire is too big. Your wings are too little. And you're big, so small. You can only bring a small drop of water at a time. But as they continue to discourage it, it turns to them without wasting any time and tells them, I'm doing the best I can. And that to me is what all of us should do. We should always feel like a hummingbird. I may feel insignificant, but I certainly don't want to be like the animals watching as the planet goes down the drain. I will be a hummingbird. I will do the best I can.
I always think of Adam as that hummingbird. He certainly did the very best he could by inspiring us. I wonder as to whether we can all be hummingbirds. I'm going to look at Jenny here actually, because Jenny and I all often share the starfish story, and many of you will be very, very familiar. You know what, it's tough out there. We know it's tough out there. And sometimes it can get a little bit discouraging, but we need to keep focused. And that's where I often turn to the starfish story of a young boy walking along the beach, seeing lots of starfish that have been washed up by the sea, and gently picking one up and tossing it back into the sea, and then moving on to the next. And an older man coming along and going, what are you doing? You're never going to save all of those starfish. And the little boy actually scooping down, picking another one up, gently popping it back into the sea. Made a difference to that one. And the older man then continuing to actually assist, and together they put many, many more starfish back into the sea. And you know what, I think with every young person that we can work and support and influence, we make a difference, and that has a ripple effect. I think that's what we need to keep focused on. Life is indeed a dance, bit of a cha-cha. One step forward, two steps back, vice versa on occasions. So Adam suggested we can do great things. I think we can. And I don't think that we should ever underestimate the power of a small group of committed people to change the world. And it's Margaret Mead that said, in fact, this is the new thing that ever has. And this is where I'm going to invite lovely Ruth Evans to actually share Adam's leadership poem. I heard Ruth reading Adam's leadership poem, gosh, 2 years ago now, to patient experience leaders from across the country, and it was truly inspirational.
So Adam was a leader, and I think everyone here today is a leader. And at the Patient Experience Leaders event that Kath was mentioning, we shared this poem for the first time because we'd only just come upon it. And the room went silent, and we talked about standing on the shoulders of giants. And This was when we read out the poem because Adam was a giant. So leadership. This rhyme is a puzzle, as you will see. This rhyme tells you what a good leader should be. A good leader respects the young and the old. A good leader observes and is prepared to be bold. A good leader is brave and will try something new. A good leader works hard and gives praise when it's due. A good leader expects the best from all staff. A good leader brings happiness and shares in a laugh. A good leader supports patients and gives them the best. A good leader teaches staff to be ahead of the rest. A good leader explains if something goes amiss. And a good leader rejoices in times of great bliss. And if you study this rhyme and look very close, you'll discover the leader I admire the most. At the Patient Experience Network Awards, we every year recognise brilliant people doing great things. So often we talk about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And we wanted this year to recognise Adam and his family with a very special recognition for all that he's done for us and you, Zoe. So thank you very much. So thank you.
Of accepting that on behalf of Adam, and it was a very, very special moment actually. And again, there was silence there, as we really felt Adam's spirit actually with us on the day as well. So I hope that's provided us with a little bit of food for thought. It was very much inspired by Adam, and you know what? I think he'd be saying, come on guys, just do it.
That was amazing, Kath. Really amazing. And I think you could, I love hearing Kath. I could listen to Kath all day. I like her lilting Welsh voice apart from anything. But the content of what you said, I think we could really feel Adam in the room and feel him urging us on to be challenging. I think Kath took us to the limits of showing those films, those amazing Fixers films. Some of them I've seen before, I don't know if you have. They're just incredible. And Kitty Pat's film I hadn't seen before. And the contrast of those different voices challenging us and driving us forward. And then typical Kath to actually pull us back to something really positive and action focused, and with Adam driving us, what can we actually do about it? So I think if people would like to have a bit of a discussion and to perhaps make it action focused in terms of what you've heard and comments and what people would actually like to happen next in Adam's fantastic memory and as a tribute to him. Over to you.
So, Kat, you know this, we've talked about this a lot before, but we've got to focus now on young people and older children. What we don't tap into, people we really are listening to, are the younger children, because as somebody's just pointed out to me on Twitter, it's because they're not cognitively able to, they're not competent to do it. Yeah. It's great, isn't it? So I'm a paediatric registrar, and we like to think that we know what we're doing, we're talking to children, and the evidence says that actually we're rubbish at it, that we pitch most of our information sharing at mid-teenage, and if they're 18 or if they're 3, we'll just deliver that information in the same way. How do we shift the focus to those younger kids? Because I think that's the real big challenge we've got. If we can start it at that younger
younger age, then it's much easier for children to take that further and further. And it's, the things we're doing in transition, starting that earlier and earlier, that's great. But we need to be listening to those kids really, really young. So how do we do that?
So I know Sean wants to check with you, but just everything, because I think the role of the play specialist is an underutilised resource actually.
So we have to be creative, and that's not easy for everyone. That's not easy when you have got a busy workload, that there's lots going on, that there's 16 patients on a 12-bedded ward. But we have to be creative, and we have to strip it all back. We have to really simplify what we're asking, but allowing space and time for the answers to come. And I think if we jump ahead and we second guess or we assume that children are going to say what we think they're going to say because they're 6 or 7, we're kind of getting it wrong already. And I think as play specialists, we have a rare opportunity that we can be creative, because that's what we do best. But that's what younger children do best. They are creative. That's how they learn, grow, develop. That's how they experience, that's how they explore, and they express what's going on. And I think that paint, sand, clay, glue, anything, but simply asking them, what is it like for you right now? Who do you like on this ward? What happens here that you don't like? Is there something we can do about that? And stripping it right back, then we're going to get richness, we're going to get narratives, and we're going to find out what they really, really want us to know. And then we can affect change, and we can start a ripple.
Is it something about the fear of the professional? So how do we support the professional around their anxieties and worries? Because we've got much better, as Kath has said, about listening, engaging, involving. I think most of us have embraced that journey, but what I repeatedly see and hear, and that comment you got on Twitter, I'd like to say that was born out of somebody else's fear and anxieties rather than facts. So is there something, what you said, Sian, is absolutely correct. I had the honour about 3 years ago of being invited into a residential school for children with profound disabilities, some who were deaf, some who were blind, and some who were both deaf and blind, and watched a eureka moment with 2 and 3-year-olds who started to communicate between themselves using an iPad, which was so liberating for the children but also for the staff and the carers. And at that point, the head teacher and the rest of the staff in that school knew that they could capitalise on that method of communicating with those children. But a month later, when I was chatting to the head teacher, I was doing a wider service review, he said, how do I help my staff with fear? And I think it's a critical part of what we're doing. All of what you've presented today, Kath, and some of the great tools and resources we have are fabulous, but I do think there's work to be done around supporting the workforce with fears and anxieties, because after all, they are only children.
I think that's key. And I think the big challenge for me is actually, this isn't about children and young people. This is about children and young people making a difference for the whole system. And all this is not about what children and young people want, it's what we all want. No matter whether we're, my gran who died recently with dementia wanted all this as well. So I think it's how we translate that across the whole society, not just a public health system or anything. It's education, it's health, it's social care, it's your neighbour next door, it's Fred down the road, it's Rita in the next street, whoever. And that learning needs to be across a whole jargonistic system, pathway type shite. But it's about working with people, and that is key.
Absolutely, Paul. And for that reason, I was very interested in, my curiosity was piqued by the idea of setting up a national institute. But shouldn't that go wider than health? Certainly how health and social can be more integrated now. I think if you set something up for health, setting something up that might be looking over our shoulder rather than being proactive.
Can I just ask, what do you think the fears and anxieties are? What from when someone wrote that down, what do you think
I
was...
think some professionals
don't have communication skills or ability to actually communicate with children. And I think a lot of us in this room have had eureka moments where we appreciate that. I think a lot of our workforce haven't got to that point. That is what a child says as young as 3-year-old of any value, really? And is what a 14-year-old down and out homeless young person involved in all kinds of risk-taking behaviours, do I really value what that young person has to say? So I think it's a journey, and we're all at a different point on that journey, and we can't assume. But in my opinion, I listen to, talking about across agencies, this would be social care staff, this would be education staff, it would be health staff, voluntary sector staff, parents, carers, school staff, across the piece really. So has that answered your question?
Yes, I didn't want to make assumptions that I knew.
No, that's fine.
It's quite interesting if you start to search around and look outside of health and research and those sorts of spaces. There's a lot of stuff in social science that I'm absolutely fascinated by. We're not very good, in my experience, of doing combined research. We either stick in health and do clinical, or we do social science. If you look at some of the literature, and some of the literature is fascinating. I think we use power as healthcare professionals to protect us from our fear and anxiety. And I think those are the conversations that are extremely uncomfortable for us to have. So in answer to Shannon's question, I would say, I think I don't know why we're fearful, but I do know how we guard against fear, which is using power. And there's a book that I was absolutely massively intrigued by called The Ceremonial Order of the Clinic, which is about young disabled children and their parents. It was written, I think it was written in the 1970s, and I would say all healthcare professionals should read it. So I think these are complex issues. We shouldn't underestimate the complexity of some of the conversations that we need to have. Can I put out a quick plug for anyone who's interested? So Sheffield University has a Centre for the Study of Childhood and Youth, which is a multidisciplinary group, and they have a conference coming up in July. And when I say multidisciplinary, I mean it is literally everything. That they are incredibly supportive, open-minded group of people, and it's one of the loveliest conferences I've ever been to. But they're on Twitter. I'll tweet out the details. But if anybody wants to go along to that and have a look at the kind of work from all different areas that's coming together, because that is, it's just amazing. Just seeing what everyone else is up to.
Do Sheffield have children's and young persons law at all? I've just been WhatsApping my nephew who's been he's been treated there at the moment, and I was just wondering if we were talking about Leeds having a really good.
Sally Shearer, who tweets, is their chief nurse, so she'll have the answer to that. So we can put you in touch with Sally. If they don't, I'm sure that they soon will have with Sally, because I know that she was down at Bart's previously and has recently gone up there. And I don't want to be sort of, delivering solutions that aren't quite right. I think you're absolutely right to raise the issue of younger children. One of the things that CYP Me First is doing in the year ahead is actually looking at younger children to actually try and build that evidence base. So we're not there yet, we're on a journey. The National Children's Bureau is doing a piece of work for us about how we actually better engage younger children. I don't think it tackles your agenda of how do we support the workforce and make sure that they have the skills. But again, I think having that resource might go some way to actually helping us on that journey. And I know that sort of, again, just picking up on the Centre for Childhood Studies, there's a whole body of knowledge around mosaic methods of engagement that I think that we need to become much more familiar with and actually get really immersed in that language as we go forward as well. I love the idea of the ceremonial order of the clinic, though I can't wait to read that.
Can you get a booking system going?
Yeah,
do it by Twitter. Thanks. So we've started a youth forum in Sheffield, possibly, and we're reading what was it, Annie, the ceremonial order. So we've got a book club going for that. So what other actions could we have coming from the group? How
about you, Zoe and Paul? What do you think Adam will want us to do now in terms of kind of bringing things to a conclusion but taking them forward? Big question.
Yes, I mean, I suppose what struck me with what Carmen said is that, you know, sort of about young children not having the capacity to understand and communicate. There were people who said that about Adam. You know, people that knew Adam, who he was a bright boy who did well at school. You know, people make assumptions, and they don't find out what is right for that individual. And you know, I think that, you know, a big problem is when people sort of approach things as if every child of a particular age is identical, every child with a particular condition is identical. Rather, you know, the important thing is to treat people as individuals and communicate with individuals appropriately to them as individuals. And I think that's what Adam would want, is for everybody to be treated as an individual appropriate to them, and their individual needs to be met.
Well, I think that's if people are ready, I think that's a really good note to finish on. Let's treat everybody as an individual. Let's act individually and together to see what we can actually do to improve things, which people in this room obviously are. Let's keep doing it, and I'll be the polite version, let's just do it. Thank you. So I think we've got some a little reception that we can go through to, and I hope people can network and socialise